so abstract. Yeah, it's complicated what you say, the way you act. Well, it makes me so confused. I don't know what to do anymore. Can't you just make up your mind? My heart drops when you play around. How can you be up when I'm down? Don't wanna think about it right now. Maybe you just wanna be friends, but there's a fight when we are talking. Maybe you just wanna pretend, but I can read between the lines. Even if I can't deny that all the things you said are hurting. Still wanna be with you. I think you want it too. 'Cause baby, I don't wanna be. Baby, I don't wanna be. No, baby, I don't wanna be. Baby, I don't wanna be. How it hurts to see you smile like a dagger in me. She just seems so juvenile. I just want it to be me. I wanna set your world on fire. Oh, you're so sure I'll stick around. Oh, my heart drops when you play around. How can you be up when I'm down? Don't wanna think about it right now. Maybe you just wanna be friends, but there's a fight when we are talking. Maybe you just wanna pretend, but I can read between the lines. Even if I can't deny that all the things you said are hurting. Still wanna be with you. I think you want it too. 'Cause baby, I don't wanna be. Baby, I don't wanna be. Oh, even if I can't deny that all the things you said are hurting. Still wanna be with you. I think you want it too. 'Cause baby, I don't wanna be. No, baby, I don't wanna be. No, baby, I don't wanna be. Baby, I don't wanna be.
Hi, everybody. Michelle Uhlenhake with you for the next 20 minutes. I am from Coloring Beyond the Forest, where I have a website where I teach Copic coloring card making classes. So, and I know we're pretty early in the summit, and a lot of you may or may not have had a chance to watch my video yet. So what we did in the video that you're watching or did watch was we made this really cute card using a stamp set from Art Impressions, where we colored up the chick with Copic markers. So, and for the summit, I did make it into an Easter card because Easter's right around the corner at the end of the month. But I love the set because it's super versatile. Here's another card that I made with the same exact image. But I also thought that chick was just so super cute. You could easily turn it into a birthday card too. So think beyond the box a little bit and think different things you can do. And then here's one more card that I had a sample to show you, just turning it into a birthday card. So, so like I said, I teach classes of Coloring Beyond the Forest. I sometimes get asked what that name is because that's kind of a little bit unusual, but I started teaching classes for a store, oh gosh, back in 2015, 2016, and it was called the Paper Forest. And she sadly went out of business during COVID. And so my name, Coloring Beyond the Forest, is just kind of a take on that because I really loved my time teaching at that store and meeting all the wonderful people that I did. So my name's just kind of a takeoff to keep the memory of the store going on. So, so I love the cards, and I just want to remind you too, if you haven't grabbed it, I have a freebie that I made out there. So make sure you go grab that. That's my favorite Copic marker blends, because one question I get asked a lot is, you know, what markers do I need or where should I start? So what I did is, I won't talk about that because you can read that, but I basically went into each Copic Copic marker family, I guess is the way to put it, and picked my favorite blend. So if you told me, hey, I need a red, Michelle, what red should I grab? I went ahead and wrote down what my favorite red combination was. If you told me, hey, I need a yellow, what should I grab? Those are the 3 yellows that I grab, because there are a lot of Copic markers. I think there's 356-ish maybe, and you do not need them all. You really, really don't. So this is a really great starting point if you're kind of just getting started with Copic markers. So yeah, so this is the freebie that I have out there. So be sure to go ahead and grab that. That's what the cover looks like. And then also, if you do have the all access pass, what you're going to be getting for that is actually for the summit, we colored up this one chick, but there's actually a whole entire stamp set that comes with it. And I love the stamp set because it also came with the dies, because I don't know about you, I don't find fussy cutting therapeutic, so I will take the die anytime I can. And your all access pass bonus from me is a full 2-hour class where we colored almost all the images in that stamp set. And then with that too, what I do with all my classes that I teach is I do step-by-step instructions, where obviously I give you all the markers that we're using, but then I go ahead and do pictures and words to show you exactly what we're doing step by step. So some people love watching the video. Some people just actually love the instructions, keep them in a 3-ring binder, and you can access those at any time. So be sure to grab your freebie, and then be sure to grab, if you have the all access pass, the instructions that are out there. So but I love Copics. I've been coloring, I think, since 2016 when I got certified. Back in the day, Copic certified you as an instructor. So just absolutely love it, and super excited to be here with you guys. So bring on the questions and let me know what you'd like to ask me. So all right, so Ruth is asking a great question. Hello, Ruth. Thank you. She said, I just want to point out that your technique to get that texture pattern on the chick was ingenious. Oh, I love it. Does it matter what type of towel, example, microfiber, etc.? That is a great question, Ruth. And actually what I used for that was just a piece of terry cloth. And by terry cloth, I mean, this is just like an old towel or an old washcloth. So if you have an old towel, old washcloth lying around, just go cut it up into pieces and keep it in your craft room. And you can reuse this over and over again. I grabbed a clean one for you guys today, but the one I usually use isn't quite so clean. Terry cloth is probably the texturizing that I use most often. You get a lot of really fun looks on it. But I have 2 other favorites that I use a lot. One is denim. Obviously, you can make it look like denim, but I've also just done it when I'm coloring up like a little boy. And I just want to give some texture to his pants or something. Denim does a really nice job. So once again, if you're throwing away something old in denim, cut it up into swatches and keep it. And the third one I use a lot is just a little piece of burlap. And this is actually like the ribbon you would buy maybe at Christmas time, like on a roll from Michael's or something. And I just cut it up. But what I've done with this one, I don't use it quite as often as the terry cloth in the denim, but I'll use this. There was one class that I taught that she had a straw hat, and so I texturized it with the burlap, and it gave it a really nice straw texture. So, but no, use anything that you have. These are just my 3 favorites, but go through any material you have in your home and try anything and just see how it works. So that is a great question. You didn't ask this, but the other thing I'll mention real quickly is I used rubbing alcohol, I do believe, to do my texturizing. This happens to be 99. It's just what I happen to have. Any rubbing alcohol will do. I think there's 99, 91, 90. And if you're overseas, maybe a little bit different, but rubbing alcohol actually works great. You can actually also use Copic blending solution. This also works great. I just use rubbing alcohol. Full disclosure, it's a lot cheaper than this, and I'd rather save this to refill my Copic blender marker. So any rubbing alcohol will work to do the texturizing technique. So, but that is a great question. Have fun, go through your different materials you have around, but I never like throw away like an old shirt or pair of jeans or towel or anything. Save it, cut it up. And I have a whole Tupperware container over there filled with things. So yeah, go through your stash and try what materials that you have. So what other inks work with alcohol or watercolor markers? Great question, Christine. Let me know if I'm answering this correctly. I'm going to guess you're asking ink pads. that work with Copic markers? I hope that's your question. That's what I'll answer. And if not, we can get the other question in there. My favorite ink pad to go to for Copic markers is Memento ink pad. And I say this because you can't go wrong. This will never smear. You will never have any issues with Memento at all. So if I'm going to have one ink pad that I color with markers, it would be Memento. Now, if you want one ink pad that works for Copics and watercolor, which is what you asked, Christine, you can try a hybrid ink pad. I know like Gina K has one, her amalgam ink pad. I'm thinking of MFT. They have an extreme black hybrid ink pad. Lawn Fawn has one. I'm honestly forgetting. They have a jet black and another one. I'm forgetting which one is the hybrid. But you can try a hybrid ink pad, and that would work for both. I just go with Memento because once in a while I'll have an issue with the hybrid ink pad in that it will smear a little bit. And what I mean by smearing is I've get asked this question a lot. So I tried to anticipate some of your questions, but here was a sample, and I'll just hold this up for a minute for you guys here to see. But what I did is I took a bunch of different types of ink pads, and let me make sure what I did then is I stamped it, and then I took a Copic marker and immediately colored over it. And you can see like sometimes it smears. So when I say I get smearing, the black smeared into the ink of the color. So, and once in a while that would kind of happen. So the really bad one happened with VersaFine, which is an amazing ink pad for sentiments. It's beautiful, crisp for sentiments, but it doesn't work with Copic. So I never use distress oxides for Copics. I will either use the hybrid or the Memento, like I said. But then my other test is I went over here, I waited an hour before I stamped, and then I came over. And you can see I kind of did have better results after I did the hour of letting it sit. So that's where I think the hybrids fared a little better if you didn't color right away after you stamped it. But I don't know about you, but I tend to stamp and then just start coloring. So I think that's where maybe I ran into the problems with the hybrid ink pads. But if you wait a little while, you can see it definitely worked a little bit better. So, but if you want to never, ever, ever have an issue, like stamp and immediately start coloring, Memento is the way that I would go on that one. So I hope that answered your question. If not, repop it into the chat in there, and I'll make sure I get that answered for you. All right, Rihanna is asking, is there any way I can use my Cricut machine for this project? I don't have any die cut stencils. Let's see. I'm trying to think how to answer that, Rihanna. The Cricut. I do not have a Cricut. I used to. I had the old one with the cartridges that you put in. If you have any kind of critter, I mean, I know I specifically use this stamp set from Art Impressions, but this technique that I taught and colored with would actually work for any critter. So like, let's say you have a little dog you want to color, use the same exact technique that I did, but just swap out maybe browns instead of the yellows. And so if you have an image, you can cut out with your Cricut and just color it up that way. I think that could work too. So I have a Brother Scan and Cut, and I do use that a lot. I try to tell myself I don't have to buy the dies, and I can just buy the stamp set and then use my Brother Scan and Cut and then cut out the image. I do that a lot, but I tend to buy the stamps and then go ahead and color them up. And then either I'll use my Brother Scan and Cut or I'll use the dies to cut them out. So, but if you have a Cricut or another machine, the only thing I would caution you with is if it's printing for you and cutting, you just need to make sure that ink is Copic friendly ink would be my other question that I make sure you want to ask. I hope that answered your question. If not, please put that back in the chat. One other thing I did just think of too, and I'll answer your question in just a second, Kim. That is a great question. If you do ever use digital stamps or want to print something out, the printer you can never go wrong with is a laser printer. Laser printers, ink will never smear on that. If you have a inkjet printer, my suggestion there is print something out on your inkjet printer, take your Copic marker, and when I say take it, I just say take it, scribble over it, just like I did on my sample, and see if it smears. And if it doesn't smear, you're in luck and go ahead and use your printer. But if it smears, you may need to look into a laser printer. So I often get asked what kind of printer to print out on. So, all right, Kim asks, how do you re-ink a Copic marker? Oh, that is a great question. So I will grab one back here. How I refill a Copic marker is take off both caps. And then basically what you do is you can do one of two things. You can take your re-inker. What I do, I'm lazy. I just take my re-inker and dab it onto the chisel end of the marker, like literally going drip, 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 drip to refill the marker. You can also, and I'm just doing this, don't do this on the brush side, do it on the chisel end. You can pull it out and then you could actually drip right in here. And I will do this once in a while if I know my marker is really, really empty. That way I can get in a lot more faster taking it out versus just dripping it on. But either way, you always use your chisel end. Ask me why. I don't know that I can remember the answer to that, but I was told always use your chisel. But the tip I want to give you then is if you've taken your chisel out, you may never have even noticed this, but there is a little teeny tiny little thing here, right here, of what the brush looks like. So what that means is, let me see if I've done this right. Yes. So let me double check that. Yeah. Okay. So on your picture, you'll see the angle that the chisel is going. So that's kind of pointed this way. And then you'll come over to my tip and it's pointed the same way. So if you put it in this way, which is the opposite, it doesn't snap in and seal as well. So that's why they put that little picture there, to make sure that you put it back in the right way and then just push it back in and it'll pop back in. Now, to continue then, you need to refill it. So some people, what they do is they'll literally just drip until it starts coming out the other end, which is a totally fine way to do it if you want to do it. I tend to be more exact, plus I don't want to waste any ink. So I went on to Amazon and bought a jeweler's scale that goes to grams. And if you actually go to my website, Coloring Beyond the Forest, I have one tab on there that's called Copic Supplies. And then on that tab, I have links to the scale that I have, the papers that I use, where I buy my markers, all that kind of stuff. But what I do, my technique is really, really fast. A full marker with caps on is about 14.6 grams. So if like I'm going to be teaching a class, I'll real quickly throw all my markers on my scale. If it's above 13, if it's below about 13.3, there's no magic number. I just opt to go ahead and refill it. But what I'll do is I'll whip it on the scale, pick my number, toss it in a refill or don't refill pile. And then once I have my caps off, to refill the marker, I'll start refilling it on the chisel end. And when it gets to 9.4 grams with the caps off, that marker is then full. So once again, 14, is it 14 or 14.4? I'll go look that up and remember 14 just to be safe, and then 9.4 when you're refilling it with the caps off. And then just put your caps on and you are good to go. One other thing is I'm taking caps on and off. Sometimes with the markers, you always want to hear, and I'm not sure, but you'll hear a little pop with the caps when you're putting it on. If one end feels less tight than the other, there's technically no right or wrong end, but sometimes I find if I switch the caps on the ends, it'll fit just a little bit better, because you do want to make sure you have a good seal so it doesn't dry out. So that way the marker stays nice and fresh. So make sure your caps are on really good. And then one other thought I had real quickly was, how do you tell that you need to refill your Copic marker? And the way that I do that really fast is I take the chisel end, and let's see how this works. I'll just go ahead and make a straight line. And if it comes out nice and smooth, it's good to go. You don't need to refill. And obviously you can tell this is a nice refilled marker. But if it kind of skips and hops and you don't get that nice solid line, that's kind of a really good test that your marker is getting really kind of low. Also, if it were really, really low, when you open up your cap, you'd actually see like white spots on there, and that means it's dry. And I would almost venture to guess you're probably down at about 12 grams or something. I think 12 grams is as low as I've ever gone with a marker. I usually kind of start to notice when it's in the low 13s kind of ish. So, but all you need to do to test it is draw a straight line with your chisel end and see what kind of line it makes. And if it's all kind of skippy or not a nice solid line, that's time to refill. So great question, Kim. Thanks for asking that. I get asked that quite a bit. All right, Lori's asking, I'm new to this technique. For us Copic dummies, oh, nobody's a dummy with Copics. We all started somewhere. So please explain what a Copic is. A Copic marker is an alcohol-based marker. And so basically what it does is it allows you to blend colors beautifully together. Like a watercolor marker, the colors don't blend together. Like, let me grab my card. Copics allow you to really, you always use about 3 to 4 colors in a family. So you're basically getting highlights in a midtone and a shadow on the marker. So it's just an alcohol-based marker that basically allows you to blend your colors beautifully together. So your images that you color don't look flat, but they really look like they have life and have some shape and some dimension to them. So, and you can't get this effect with like Tombow markers, just like coloring and blending. Now with watercoloring, you can kind of get that effect and use some different colors and things. But for just Copic markers, it's for the solid coloring that you're just kind of getting some shading mixed in there. So great question. I love Copics. I love coloring with them. Everybody starts somewhere. So we're just maybe starting out, but everybody has to start somewhere. But I do truly believe anybody can learn how to color with Copic markers. So don't be overwhelmed with them. Just have fun with them and just kind of keep practicing with them. But absolutely love them. And I think it's a great way to color images with them. So great question. All right, Judy's asking, I don't have markers. Could I use watercolor markers? Great question, Judy. Kind of depends on the look that you're wanting to do with a watercolor marker. So by that, I mean, I'm looking over at my Tombows if you see me looking across the room there. You could definitely color with Tombow markers. You wouldn't blend them together. You'd probably just more add layers to them to get kind of some more shading. And then you may just want to swap out the paper that you're using. I always, for Copics, use one of 2 papers that are my favorites. And 2 of them I have samples of here. This is one. It's called Express It Blending Card. This is my go-to favorite paper, but I don't use it all the time. And why I don't use it all the time is because it is a little bit more expensive. So this ream here, it's 125 sheets. I bought this from Blick Art Supplies, and I think this is about $51. I just looked before the live today so I could kind of tell you accurately. So because of that price point, I don't use it a lot. And 2 other reasons. One, it is 80-pound paper, so I would not use it as my cardstock. I don't find that heavy enough. And then the other reason is this was the paper I just drew that line on. It has a little bit, I don't know if it will show up on camera, but it has a little bit of a gray hue to it. So I don't think it's a white paper. And so therefore I wouldn't use it as my card base either. So my go-to paper that I use almost all the time, and my back area might start to look messy as I show everything here to you guys, is this. It's Hammermill, and I buy this on Amazon, and I went and looked this up. It's 250 sheets, so it's a whole ream of this, and I get this on Amazon for about $23-ish, something kind of just like that. So I don't think you can watercolor with either of those papers, but the concept of Copic coloring with adding the layers and having a highlight, a midtone, and a shadow would certainly work with watercolors. You just maybe use a different paper and layer more than blending. So, well, oh my gosh, this time went by so fast with you guys today. Be sure if you have questions that I didn't get to, keep them in the chat or put them in the YouTube video, and I'll definitely go over and try to answer your questions in the video then over the next couple of days. But thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to check out my classes that I teach monthly at coloringbeyondtheforest.com. So thank you all for joining me today. And sorry I couldn't get to more of your questions, but I appreciate you hanging out with me and had a wonderful time. So bye, everybody. Enjoy the summit.